Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Mansfield from Plymouth Marine Laboratory, where I'm the data systems architect, and I'm hoping to present today some observations from a deployment of a digital twin in a research, it's the kind of a marine research community. And so, very briefly, to set the scene, if I can change my slide. There we go. Hopefully you can now see a GIF running. And in the GIF on the right, we see a kind of a big explosion of a colorful blob in the sea from the Western English Channel. And that blob is a plankton bloom shown in satellite data. And that's what we were interested in studying with this digital twin. It's a good topic, we think, for a digital twin because they explode very unpredictably. They're very fast, they're very transient, and they're very difficult to measure with kind of fixed infrastructure, with large manned vessels, with traditional ways of doing marine science. And so we'd hope to deploy a digital twin to help us to understand what causes, what triggers the start of these plankton blooms, and also what are the effects throughout the entire water column after the bloom has occurred. All things that we can't get from satellite data, and we actually need in situ measurements for. So a little quick overview of when I talk about a digital twin, what it is we actually deployed, which I think is quite a neat example of what a kind of quite a clear example of what a digital twin is. That we have a kind of physical real world with some real assets in it collecting data. So satellites, fixed buoys, also kind of mobile assets. So autonomous underwater vehicles and also surface assets too. And the data from all of these assets is fed into kind of the virtual part of the twin or model at this stage. And the model kind of gives us an estimate of what's going on in the marine environment throughout the water column layers. Now, I think the innovative bit here that we did that makes it a digital twin is that we also then had a piece of artificial intelligence running that assessed the model and looked for areas of uncertainty. So areas where the model knew least what was going on. And with the knowledge from that assessment, the AI, so the kind of the artificial intelligence automatically made a mission plan, which was then given to the autonomous vessels and the surface assets to go and collect data from different places to fill in those gaps to improve the certainty. And this digital twin ran for something like 2 months, constantly improving the kind of the fidelity of the model in the virtual part, continually tasking the assets to go to the areas that they were most effective in the physical real world. So I talk about that as a past tense, so a little bit of a recap about where we are through the journey of this Synced Ocean project. It was quite a short project, so something like 15 months in total. I think most short projects where you have to put together lots of technologies, lots of data, lots of systems, you would have the live trial towards the end. One challenge in this one was that the plankton bloom that we hope to witness only ever happens August to September time. So we had to deploy the systems quite early. So we're now at the stage that we've just recovered the assets, that we have run the digital twin, and effectively we have some observations, some things, trying to learn some lessons of how did this run in a scientific environment, in a scientific community, and how could we do things more effectively next time. So a bit more detail about what the digital twin actually consists of. And on this slide, I've kind of put the technologies against the Gemini reference architecture, which was actually a reference architecture that was introduced on this call kind of a few weeks ago. So it may be something that's a bit familiar. It's the first time I've used it, obviously. It's been super useful. But just to give you a bit of an overview of what the kind of the key functions and technologies were that were deployed in this digital twin, are shown here. Interestingly, there was nothing for visualization, and it was quite an interesting discussion before the digital twin deployment that we thought it was quite a good idea, or quite a smart thing, that it might effectively, through this digital twin with the collection of assets from an autonomous system into a piece of AI that made the mission plans that went back to the autonomous systems, there were no humans in the loop, so it ran in near real time. We ended up with something really responsive, really fast, but because we didn't have humans in the loop, we didn't need to have visualization, or so we thought, which is a good introduction into some of the observations that we've taken from the deployment of this digital twin. So a quick note about when I say observations and lessons learned, what do I mean? Effectively, we're using a standards-based lessons learned process throughout the deployment. Effectively, we set up a form for everybody in the team to be able to capture either things that went really well or things that didn't go as well as expected that we'd like to assess a little bit afterwards. And through the kind of asking the team to maintain this throughout the deployment, throughout those 2 months in the summer that the digital twin was deployed, we've ended up with something like 20 observations, which are shown here. And I think the interesting thing from these observations are kind of the groupings that we're starting to get at the top level. So the first kind of lesson that we're beginning to identify is that, first of all, engineering rigor is required to deploy these robust systems. So this digital twin was quite complex. We had autonomous systems feeding data from lots of different places to assimilate a model. The model was run. There was then an analysis on that, which went back in an automated loop to the assets to be tasked. There were lots of teams involved in that, lots of teams from different organizations. It was all put together quite quickly with different areas of special expertise, and it's something that I think we're all scientists. We're pretty much all research background organizations, and I think it's something that really kind of the more systems engineering rigor of kind of the what assessing beforehand what can go wrong and putting things to mitigate that and remove the risks could be something that we can really benefit from. That we did some of with time with the kind of scientific community. It's something we can do a bit more of next time. Another big interesting one, which kind of links to that, was the fact that we thought we were really cool not having visualizations and humans in the loop to make it fast, actually including visualizations to keep humans on the loop. So we kind of had the concept of it would be useful to have a digital twin with humans on the loop, being able to monitor what's happening, being able to step in if the systems behave in an unexpected way, or if there's any mechanical failures or any kind of data processing failures, is a really valuable thing that we're planning to do more of next time. Also, interestingly, on the data side of things, there were quite a lot of trade-offs between data timeliness and data quality, which is something that comes from having a near real-time automated digital twin. In the scientific community, typically a scientist can collect data and they have 6 months to a year to assess that data, analyze that data, and publish it so that other people can use it. In this digital twin, they had at most 24 hours. That closed loop was a 24-hour thing. And so there were quite a lot of kind of trying to communicate the trade-offs between the latest data and the higher quality data that was being processed and built in the background, and being able to manage those parallel data streams was an interesting feature. So kind of showing those lessons learned on where we hope to go back onto the Gemini reference architecture. Say the big bit of development for the final part of the project is now to work on the visualization and the analytics to kind of give a better representation of how did the system do, and helping humans to come into the loop to understand what it was the system did, what the strengths and weaknesses were, and how the mission unfolded through the 2-month period. And so thank you very much. So that was some of the lessons we've had from the Synced Ocean digital twin, and I look forward to talking to you via Slido later. Thank you.
Thomas, why was the digital twin only deployed for a few months? Could it not still be running now?
Yeah, great question. So the original plan was to deploy the digital twin for 1 month, and then we realized we were measuring something interesting, so we extended it for a second month without any particular difficulty. So yes, it does seem to be something that's scalable. You can extend the time. There were real assets deployed that that are busy. Autonomous assets have a lot of calls and lots of different projects. So effectively, we temporarily had loan of some autonomous assets that went away to work on another project. So there was a time-bound window for this particular project. But looking forwards, there are other applications in kind of a similar area, and it's a useful trial. For instance, Plymouth Marine Laboratory runs the Western Channel Observatory, or jointly runs the Western Channel Observatory, which is a marine observation capability that has been running for more than 100 years. And with the combination of artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, and digital twins, we're investigating how they can play a role in supporting that over decades for the long-term future. So yeah, very scalable to different times. A great question. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thomas. And another question for yourself, if I may, is fascinating application of the Gemini reference architecture that you showed on screen. How do you think other organizations developing digital twins might find value in this approach?
Yeah, thanks. Another good question. So yeah, I think one area is effectively there's lots and lots of digital twins being developed in parallel, even within Plymouth Marine Laboratory, never mind outside of our own institution. And I think the Gemini reference architecture has been really useful, at effectively kind of putting some bounding boxes around the kind of the elements that make up the digital architecture and allowing us to be able to start to have a common knowledge, a common kind of reference of what these elements are, being able to share lessons, best practice, being able to build communities of interest around it. So I think actually it's a really nice framework for building the almost human side of things, of being able to have the specific information exchanges between different projects. So hopefully we can learn lessons, we can pass those on to future projects, and be more efficient with our future digital twins.
Thomas, really interesting reflection on your project and learning outcomes. Just wondering if the insights on the plankton have impacted on other sectors, such as shipping or climate research.
Yes, I think is the summary. So yeah, this is where I step away. As I'm the data systems architect, so kind of data autonomous systems is something I can say something about. The actual marine science behind it is something I have to rely on my colleagues who are proper marine scientists. But yeah, these are really interesting areas. Is why there's such interest in monitoring this of kind of early warning. Planktons are a great early warning indicator for climate change, and also these kind of algal blooms or the plankton blooms have a really big impact on kind of local fisheries, local industry. There's really a great deal of impact and a lot of motivation for better understanding their triggers and their effects afterwards, which are something difficult to measure without digital twins.